I mean, just name it what it is. It was corruption. Now, here are representatives that are going to be the progressive arm of the county board. We're going to ask them to investigate this corruption, and we're going to let you know what happens, because I hope this week I think one contacted us already, and we want to sit down with them. And I mean, I'd love to have them come on the show, and let's discuss it. They're capable of understanding it. I mean, we've got viewers out there that are red hot on this issue, and there's no reason our representatives shouldn't be doing the same.
Good morning. Glad you could make it back. This is Mr. Jim Spodek, producer of the show.
Morning.
And member emeritus, does that work? George Myers?
I'll go with that.
I'm Dr. Ken
Best
Dorgan.
I've gotten so far in 200 shows. I think
Well,
this is
no,
show
you-
number
you-
200,
you
right?
missed-
I
you missed the first
10.
20 or something.
Yeah, 10 or
Was it
15.
10?
I don't know what it was.
Yeah. But anyway, you're back.
I
you're
always
back.
feel like a Johnny come lately. I don't know, for some reason.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
No matter how many I've done, I don't feel like I feel like I just came on the show with these two.
We should take off for like 10 weeks so we can catch up.
Catch up, yeah.
Let's see, what do we got here today? Oh, we got a video of Mayor Mason.
We do.
This ought to be exciting. Why don't you play that for our guests?
Okay. No, it's the budget, the 2021 budget.
How does it look?
We'll take a look.
This was not a fun budget to put together for anyone. We started with a large structural deficit, and between the pandemic and declining revenues, it made it very difficult together. There are things in this budget that, if we had the resources, we would have preferred not to do. We are forced, under the rules laid forth by us by the state legislature, and the restrictions we have around growth and being landlocked, we are forced into a structural deficit, which means next year we will have another conversation that is similar to this. So these are very hard decisions. I want to thank the council for being willing to work so hard on this budget and make some hard choices. I know it wasn't easy for anyone. I also just want to make it clear, these shortfalls in fundings are not the fault of our residents. They're not the fault of our employees. It is a very difficult thing to have more cost than we have resources to expend. We've made every effort to try to maintain all of our services and not lay people off in the process of doing this and find savings through attrition. So I want to thank everybody for their hard work on this, on a very difficult budget in a very difficult year in the midst of a pandemic. So thank you, everyone.
God, I'm ready to cry.
First thing I want to just talk about is this complaint about being landlocked. Mm-hmm. We brought this up once before, and I'm just not letting the council or anybody in that administration get away with that. We have not reduced our size, our acreage, at 1 square foot in the city of Racine. With this same acreage that we got, at one point we had 95,000 people and an abounding community full of energy with manufacturing and lots of business activity. So don't tell me that landlocked is our problem. The problem is too many regulations and too much government and just the anti-business activity that's been existent with this progressive nature that's been going on in the city, which we're going to get a little more into about the progressive. So at any rate, that was just a landlocked
Hey,
thing.
I like progress. Don't you like progress?
Yeah, I love progress.
Okay.
Yeah, real progress. Yeah.
Real progress.
Yeah.
The structural deficit.
Yeah.
How many times? Every year they got a structural deficit.
Well, it's like this big building it's made out of stone, and
And there's nothing you can do about it. That's
Nothing.
right. It's all in stone.
I mean-
they can't change anything. I mean, that's another thing, by the way. When I came here to Racine in 1968, Racine was basically in City Hall. The City Hall Annex was a university, and the DPW, the place they have over there on Racine Street, was a car dealership. Now it's full of government employees. So don't tell me that and we have fewer people. We have 19,000 fewer people now, 20,000 fewer people than we did then. So, the structural deficit is something that's been put there, and like his staff. It's going to be things like that.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, where
Okay,
we
I got
have
a
with the
question.
staff now, and we can't get rid of the staff, so we have this $750,000 burden that we have to pay every week, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Right.
What's
It's a
your
structural-
Well,
what's your question?
really, what's he done? I mean, you're talking he's over year after year after year. I mean, you go back to Dickert. It was the legislator that that hog-tied them. They can't raise taxes. So what did they do this particular year? They doubled their fees and increased the fees to actually bring in revenue. Now, of course, the pandemic has created another problem. But that pandemic, they'll be able to play that. But what have they done? I mean, what benefit is it to the community and to the citizens of this community?
You know what I
what do
object
we
to
need?
with that announcement that he made? It's so dreary.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you got a situation, you don't have to cry about it. I mean, you can say, well, once again, we're up against a tough budget here, but you know what? Still a good place to live. Say something positive.
The problem
everything
was
he had to say
it's
was like
always tough budgets. Always
Yeah, of
tough
course it
budgets.
is.
Because they can't. They don't know how to do it. Because they believe that government is the answer to everything. The more government we get, the better it's going to be. And if we are in control, you don't worry about this. You just keep paying taxes, keep paying fees, and we're going to take care of everything for you. Well, that hasn't worked. If you look at Racine and you look where we were and where we are, it isn't working. And it's going to get worse if we continue on this road.
I think once people get tired of that message and they decide they're not going to put up with it anymore, we can get a better mayor. Now, I have been in 4 mayoral contests now, and all 4 of those mayors knew there were things that could be done about the budget. They knew there was ways to cut it. One of them happened to be a CPA with CNH, Chase New Holland, and she was in their department of cutting budgets, and boy, she tore into that budget when we were doing during the campaign. She knew exactly how to find stuff here. She knew where to find places to cut.
We
budget.
ran campaigns.
That was Jody Harding.
Yeah, we've been in campaigns, but you know what they like? Slogans. It's a slogan city.
Yeah.
When you talk about budgets and actually saving money and actually benefiting for the citizens, that's over their head.
Well, that's why I say once people decide they're tired of hearing that type of stuff, we can get. I mean, we've had 4 mayors now. 4 people run for mayor. All of them been turned down by the city of Racine in favor of that type of presentation. So when people are really ready to make a change, it'll be here.
You're right.
there's people around that could do a better job.
Yeah.
Hard work by the Common Council. That's another term.
Oh my
that was
God!
good.
They don't see the budget until they vote on it.
The hard work. What did they do? Push a button? I don't know. Hard work.
Sometimes it
Come
can be
on.
difficult to find that yes button over there, Jim.
Well, that budget.
It's just mopey and
Oh,
dreary.
my
Ugh,
God.
geez.
I know it. And you know what? Don't they buy it? The citizens buy it here. I don't get it. I don't get why they let this stuff continue on. And they vote them in one after the other, and it progressively gets worse. The old saying, I can't remember which. Are you better
You
off
mean
today?
can it still get worse?
It's going to get worse.
Oh,
Well,
we
I'll
talk
tell
about
you
this.
exactly how it gets
Yeah,
worse
I hear.
too. Is that people have to leave, and there's fewer and fewer people paying for a bigger and bigger budget.
yeah.
And they complain because the state has put limits on how much they can increase. They say, well, you can increase the taxes by the amount of new growth you have in the structure, in infrastructure. And we had 0.18%, which amounted to $65,000 in growth.
Yeah.
Well, that's all that you're growing. Why should you be allowed to tax more than that?
Hey, don't
What's
poo-poo
the
that
rationale?
$65,000. That's a down payment on another staff member for
Yeah,
the mayor.
that's right. That's halfway to another staff for mayor for the mayor.
Well, it's
man.
just the same old, and budget falls through. There was 2 votes against it. One was Henry Perez, and the other one was Peterson. Otherwise, that thing floated right through. Nobody objected to anything. Push it through. The fees increased. Your revenues for the citizens have increased. Your services were cut, year after year after year after year. So
Well,
when you want to put a stop to it, I guess it's when you finally decide, hey, either I'm leaving or I got to start looking at our local government and asking these tough questions.
Well, we got that new TID district. It's been about a year ago.
Yeah.
And so I called up to find out what's going on there. Any loans going out, what's being done. They don't even have a plan yet. The plan has not been finalized. It's supposed to.
The plan was to take money, Doc.
Yeah.
That plan worked.
Well, what was the What was the administrative cost that they were projecting? Was it for the TID or something else? I remember a $600,000
Right.
administrative estimate. Was that the TID?
Well, I think it was the TID now, but I don't know, it was both of them or one of them. The fact is that they're going to, skim off the top.
Yeah, basically. Well, in the meantime, there's the 10th district that's now missing an alderman with the loss of our friend Kerry Glenn. And what have we heard they're going to do about that?
Well, I got a little video on that too.
Well, let's watch it.
Yeah,
All right.
see that one.
When a vacancy occurs, we can either one, leave it vacant until the term expires until the next election. We can two, call a special election, or we could three, fill the seat, and maybe four, fill the seat and still call a special election. The reason at this time I'm intending to move to fill the seat for the remainder of the term is twofold. If we were to wait until a special election in April, that would mean the 10th district will go without representation for roughly 6 months, which is a quarter of a term, and I believe that's not appropriate for us to leave that.
We're back.
That was impressive. I don't want to leave it open for 6 months. I think history will tell us that that's perfectly fine. And really, what's the problem? I mean, all of these things are passing with like 13-2 or unanimous, or really. Is there going to be any more discussion if they install somebody in there? Is there going to be any more representation? I don't think so.
That's my concern. He says the 10th district will not have representation. The 10th district went a long time without representation until they had Kerry Glenn in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and whether they're going to get a Kerry Glenn in there or they're going to bring back one of these non-representative representatives, it's a good question. So It's a sad scene over there. I mean, Kerry Glenn is not going to be easily replaced. She's not going to be replaced. But if we could get someone in there, if the 10th District people could come up with a good name, and if anybody in the 10th District is watching this show, and you've got somebody that's going to get out there and do something for you, let us know. Maybe we could help push this person up there and get them put on there. But if it's going to be,
the Democratic, what they're going to do, George, is they're going to bring in the Sam Pete who ran against Kerry in that last election, or bring back Dennis Weiser. They've got to put somebody in there.
See, if they're going to put in something like that, you might as well. You're not. That's not a representative anyway.
No,
don't bother.
It's just filling a seat.
Well,
I mean,
but you have to remember that fills a seat for their position. Again, we're running a almost Marxist common council there. I mean, hell, it's all dictated now.
Did you say commie council?
I said Marxist. Common council.
Oh, common council.
Yeah, common. Well, whatever. But I mean, the fact is, they're just going to plug in another bobblehead that's going to say yes. That's all it is. And when they talk about we're going to put somebody in because they can't let it go, who are they representing? If you put a vote in, then it becomes the people of that district, their representative. When you install it, it becomes your representative of the administration, and that's what they want.
They could do a special election. They could just
easily.
They could run it in April when
they could easily run a special
election.
Absolutely, and get somebody out there. And one of the arguments was, well, it's too difficult to run a campaign. It's just grueling. Well, you know what? If you want to be a representative, you may have to do that. It's just certain things you have to do if you want something. And then, to me, that would make it say, hey, maybe this is the individual if they're willing to do that type of
what
campaign.
makes it easy to get reelected? Do a good job.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's on anything. A job, homework, school.
Look at how much effort they put into unseating Kerry.
Absolutely.
And it didn't work because she was a representative of that district and the people appreciated her and knew her.
Again, you go back to the citizens here. They elect the government that they have. And this is what you have. And it's, I'll be honest with you, I've never seen it this bad. And I don't see it getting any better. I don't see it we're talking about, this idea we're going to be progressive. Well, you be progressive, but you also have to represent all the citizens. And they're just not a revenue source. I mean, and that's how they're looked upon.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. A friend of ours said that. We get it. We're the revenue source.
Exactly.
And that's you and me and these two guys. We're the revenue source. And, it's going to be such BS when they handpick somebody and put him or her into that position.
Yeah.
It's not going to be anything like it was, but let them run. Let them run for that position. Get elected. It's not that big a deal. I mean,
if they're going to do like they typically do with a replacement, and that is the aldermen elect the person that's going to take their place, you're just going to get another one of the 12 or whatever it was that voted for it. That's what you're going to get. You're getting one of them. You're not going to get a Kerry Glenn. You're not going to get somebody that thinks independently of the mayor.
And what's the salary? Like $400 a month?
Maybe 600.
600?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a lot, but it's a start. It's $600 savings right there. You got to chip away at this, Corey.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Anyway.
Well, this past week here, I reached out to some of the members of the county board, specifically Fabi Maldonado, Nick Dembski, and Melissa Kaprelian-Becker, who have worked together on some issues, and they're the ones that are most familiar with issues in the city of Racine, as they represent to the county board. And the problem that is most apparent, as far as I'm concerned, and I know you too, is Machinery Row. There's been a complaint by a citizen sitting on the desk of the district attorney for like 3 years. She hasn't moved on it. Even the chief of police has advised her that it would be a good thing to get an investigation going. So I'm hoping to hear back from those three county board members, those three representatives, supervisors, and we'll see if we can get something going. I mean, they are kind of they have some supervisory oversight on the district attorney. I mean, it's a county-wide office. It's the county board. So we'd like to see something happening there. What do you think of this, George? You think that's a good idea that we can? Yeah, I mean, nobody else is moving on it.
Well, that's right, and it's hard to get. Well, the council they're too distant from it, But that would be a good start, and I would say that we would just we if one of those three is willing to come in and say something about it, we could probably bring him and interview him on the show.
Bring him on.
And because. I agree with you on that, Doc. In other words, they're about as close as you're going to get, or we've been able to get. You can get closer than that with a sheriff or something like that, but they don't seem to be. We've already tried those.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? The money that was squandered there came from all of these county municipalities into the city of Racine in the intergovernmental fund, which they pay us money for sewer and water.
Right.
And that money should be used wisely. I mean, that's money that comes out of the taxpayers' pockets out in the county to pay for sewer and water services. And they're paying a premium price,
Absolutely.
too. So they should have an interest. The whole county board should have an interest in this.
This was corruption. I mean, just name it what it is. It was corruption. Now, here are representatives that are going to be the progressive arm of the county board. We're going to ask them to investigate this corruption, and we're going to let you know what happens, because I hope this week I think one contacted us already, and we want to sit down with them. And, I mean, I'd love to have them come on the show, and let's discuss it. They're capable of understanding it. I mean, we've got viewers out there that are red hot on this issue, and there's no reason our representatives shouldn't be doing the same.
Well, I think because it's kind of viewed as a city issue, a city municipal issue. I don't think the county board has ever thought, gee, we might have some oversight powers here. We might have a voice here.
It's so simple to say. I've dispensed millions and millions of dollars. Look at Foxconn. Now, this group, these three individuals are real questionable on Foxconn. Well, you know how much money was spent there, and I mean that goes into the city of Racine and Mount Pleasant and Caledonia. All of that is going to be affected. This affects the same group, and this group should really be seriously looking at this, because this is where it starts. If you want to stop something, and if you want to get a healthier community, you're going to need to stop the corruption. And this is straight up corruption. You can call it what you want. This is misappropriation of funds, and it needs to be looked at.
Yeah, when it comes to who is the effective at most, it is the city. I mean, obviously the Machinery Row, but who's going to do something about it? Unfortunately, it goes outside of the city and gets up to the district attorney, and that's where the county supervisors can have a little bit more say when it comes to getting the prosecution done. And we're not talking about all the supervisors, those out in the county probably, you know.
Well, yeah, we are, but I mean, these are the people that are.
But the three we're talking about are from the city of Racine. They represent the county districts that are in the city of Racine, and they should take an interest in it, I think.
And carry it to the board at large and say, look, you guys are involved too. This is money that came out of all your municipalities.
Right.
That was
marvelous.
entrusted to the city of Racine. And, you know, none of this stuff isn't going to stop as long as people get away with it.
Absolutely.
You know, if nobody's held accountable, well, you know, you get elected to office, and if you got any kind of a left-sided bend, you know, where you're a little bit crooked, you say, hey, you know, people have been getting away with this for a long time. Nobody's going to bother me.
And that's the only way to really stop it is to get after the people that have done it, get it corrected. There's this idea, well, we just put new people in there, but unfortunately, that doesn't seem to work. Because if it's been a practice, you know, it just kind of gets carried forward. But once you go in and you say, you know, you go after the people that did it, then that will tend to stop it, somewhat.
Puts a little bit of a damper on the corruption.
Hopefully,
time, you know, these people.
As long as you don't look at the Illinois governorship, it seems like keep putting them in jail, and the next one comes along and does the same damn thing. You know?
They got a fast track going down there from the governor's office right to the prison system.
After you leave the governor's office, you go to jail for a while.
God. You know? Well, we got a couple of updates on court cases, and one of them involves Judge Piontek, and the other one involves Judge Fredrickson, who we've become kind of fans of. You know, so Jim, what happened with Judge Piontek here recently?
Well, he ruled on a case for not vending machines, on video gaming machines, and said they're legal.
I thought it was real interesting he did that. When I saw that, I thought, wow, man, he ruled against the government. You know, what's going on here? Because the Department of Revenue the Wisconsin Department of Revenue was saying these were illegal machines, and the convenience stores that were running them were saying no, they are not gambling machines, and he ruled with the convenience stores. He ruled with the private sector. I thought, wait a minute, what's going on here?
They're straight up gambling machines. You know,
no question about it.
But I think he's probably playing them. That's what I think is going on.
Well, okay,
I'm just guessing.
Yeah,
I've never seen him sitting there, but then I don't go to those kind of establishments.
I'm hoping he's seen maybe some things in the private sector are valid, and the government isn't always right.
Yeah,
I'm hoping he's maybe reviewed his consideration.
Well, you know, this is one of those things, George, where they know, and I mean, there's statute here. These are gambling machines. But somehow the state of Wisconsin has just kind of looked the other way. And part of the reason is, when you talk about influence, it's the Tavern League.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, they're the ones that saying, hey, we can't survive.
Although this wasn't the Tavern League.
It wasn't, but
this is a convenience store league, and I don't think they got a league.
Well, they may not. But if they rule against convenience stores, where does it head? It goes right to the bar, and somebody's going to come up with a case that says, hey, they're not illegal. If they're not legal in a convenience store, why are we letting them into a bar? You know.
Yeah. Well, that's true. It's all right. So
but
you're saying,
I mean, his argument was, or the argument presented to him said, well, the odds are posted, and
it was kind of a weird argument.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is bogus. I don't care how you look at it. They look the other way. The whole video gaming machine is this that just kind of hangs there that nobody really, I guess enforces it unless they don't like someone.
Well, as a libertarian, I hope that it stands, because I think if a convenience store wants to put one of those in there and somebody wants to come in there and play the darn thing, let them do it.
There's people that love them, man.
Somewhere along the line, people have to take responsibility for what's in their pocket and which slot they're going to put it into. You know.
Well, I'm not against it, George.
That sounded homosexual, George. I don't know.
Well, I'm thinking that, you can put into that one, or I shove the same thing into a similar slot when I'm at Pick and Save. At the checkout thing when I do my own checkout. It takes that money right in there, but I get some groceries every time.
Yeah, whatever.
I always get something.
All I'm saying is that's a weird one that somehow this is like this slips through the channel. So I'm curious to see how this
I think
if
the
the
other
state of Wisconsin comes back on this, we'll see.
I think the other case that we're talking about is more interesting. Yeah, this was kind of fun, but the other one has to do with the Sam Azarian lawsuit.
Right.
And the defendants in that case, which is the city of Racine, didn't like a ruling that Judge Frederickson made, which was basically, well, it looks like we ought to have a trial here. It looks
Right.
like we ought to get some discovery going and see what the heck
The
happened
private
over
sector
there.
wins again.
Yeah. And of course the city goes, oh, no, we got to go to the appeals
That's 2 in a
court.
row, guys. We got a win streak
Well,
going.
basically, they took it back to the appeals court and said, listen, this is not a trial that we have to dig up all this information. This is a relocation.
Yeah,
that
it's a
we're gonna-
nothing deal.
It's nothing. We're just
Nothing
going to
deal.
do the relocation. That's all we got to do.
That was the government's position. That was
Yeah, nothing
Lefty's
to see
Yeah,
here.
position.
yeah,
Nothing
Lefty's
to see
position.
here.
And the appeals court said, no, let it go. Let's go. So now they're in that stage of discovery. So now the attorneys for the Azarian suit can move forward and ask for discovery.
And
I think-
discovery, folks, that is the interesting part,
Yes.
because that's where people develop their evidentiary cachet, which they bring to court. And so people who know things about this now are going to have to go on record as to what they know, when they knew it, so on and so
That's
forth.
right. Emails and conversations and
So,
absolutely.
That's when you discover things. Yeah,
Yeah.
find
And
out
that's-
what's going
It's
on.
usually
Treasure hunt.
that usually starts to bring that case starts to really kind of tighten up then after
It
discovery.
starts to develop.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So we're looking forward to that one. That'll be. We've been complaining about Machinery Row for ages. And
you're
this-
talking
this
about
case is
millions and
very,
millions
very,
of
very
dollars,
much
and
about Machinery Row.
and I'll tell you another thing. We never touched in on that lumber, that reclaimed material. There's a huge amount of money there that just seems to have just mysteriously disappeared.
Migrated.
Yeah, the numbers just don't match up.
Well, it was just old buildings, but there was
Yeah.
a lot of value in those old buildings, and
Darn
that
right there
value
was.
just migrated outside of the city. Boy, for a town that really needs money, they should have been all over that.
This
Jim,
is-
wasn't that one of the biggest finds of all?
I talked to the guy that actually laid down the big money for it and distributed it to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and some of it went down to North Carolina. And he said this was the biggest reclaimed lumber in the country, right there at Machinery Row.
Those are some big buildings there.
Big buildings.
That was a
And you're not
lot
talking
going
just
on there.
lumber. You're talking, outside of lumber, you're talking all the bricks. You're talking all the iron. You got to remember all the cables and all the copper and some of those power lines. I mean, there was a huge, huge amount of reclaimed material there.
And it was not enough to cover the cost of demolition.
Right. And we paid on top of that.
Yeah,
The city of
it's
Racine, if I
criminal.
remember looking back at that, got $937,000 of reclaimed material. Well, that's chicken feed compared to where's the rest? How did it all work out? There's some questions that need to be asked. Is it legit? Maybe, but you know what? Nobody looks into it. You think any of these aldermen are? No. So, I mean, these are the things that really, when you talk about it, you really need an audit. You need an audit to setting things straight, and then once you get on a straight and narrow, you can start to develop and improve the community. You can't do it when there's a lot of questions out there. Nobody wants to be involved when there's
Well, and when there's cash leaking out of the bucket,
Right.
you're never going to get that bucket filled up.
Right.
It's,
and you can well, whatever.
yeah. Anyway, that's interesting news. So we're really optimistic about that. We're going to be following that one close. And in the meantime, you guys have a good week. We're going to do the same. We'll be back here and see you next Monday. Thanks for showing up.